What's going on, guys? I'm Dave Tate, and we're broadcasting live from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room, where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. Today, our guest is Jujimufu, John, what do you call?
Yes.
Call. I'm dyslexic, so I screw up everybody's name all the time. So, but I know your name, right? So we got John with us, and we have Sam again. Hello. Sam is going to kick us off with whatever the current topics are.
Yeah, I think one of the best things we can do to start is to give our audience, who may not know who the illustrious Jujimufu is, a little bit of a background.
Sure.
Who the hell are you?
Okay, I've been training for about 21 years. Started with some Taekwondo. And then I got into something called tricking, which is flips, twists, and kicks. So it's acrobatic martial arts. And I taught myself how to do that in my backyard.
I just realized that also means something else.
It does. But the internet was smaller back then. And we didn't get as many corrections. The internet's much bigger now.
I didn't put one and one together. Okay, anyhow.
Yeah. But, doing that, I was one of the people who was doing that, who knew weight training. All professional athletes weight train. So I started entering the weight room. It's a kind of a skateboard culture, tricking is. So it's just like, you just trick, you got to go crazy, those guys, But I was like, no, professional athletes, they weight train. So I started weight training to supplement, and then, of course, I got addicted to it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's like, I love deadlifts.
Yeah.
Started reading all the articles. T-Nation is one of the first websites that I really started in, and that's where I got exposed to a lot of your stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've been following you since, like, the early 2000s.
Okay.
And then it just continues and continues. And then in my late 20s, I got into bodybuilding as well, because I got tired of training for 2.5 hours every day, and I look like a normal person. So it's like, I know how bodybuilders train, so I'm just going to start implementing what they do, because I want to look bigger too, and that worked. I did it. Did a good job. But, it just ends up where I'm like, okay, I'm a large guy that's very strong, that can do all the flips and stuff and the splits, and I have a pretty good skill set. I'm just doing all of it at this point. And then I just find myself on social media making stupid videos, and it just catches. It does well, and people like the humor and the broad skill set, and I just had fun with it, and then I just took it from there as a content creator.
Yep.
Now,
how's that?
That's pretty freaking good. Now, how did you find Elite FTS?
Well, I found out Dave, reading his stuff, and then he has a company, and then I'm buying stuff. And then I'm buying stuff from Dave.
Wow.
So
See,
that's
I wish
T-Nation, right?
Yeah,
so it goes back to the T-Nation thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the articles I was putting on T-Nation.
Now, I wish most of the internet would follow that trend as well. Of find Dave, buy Dave stuff.
Yeah.
No, that would be awesome.
Yeah. So what brought you out here today?
Man, I really like it here. This is one of my favorite.
It's pretty fucking cool, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty cool.
This gym is one of my favorite places. Dave is one of my favorite people. What you guys do is one of my favorite things. I just love it. I just feel at home here, and I just want to come here and visit here when I can. So, just out here shooting some videos, learning some stuff. I mean, me and Dave just shot some videos of inventing new exercises. He helped me out with my deadlift. That'll be up on your platform soon.
Yep.
And yeah, I just like it here.
Zero.
Yeah, we invented the zero.
The zero.
Uh-huh.
So that's something to definitely watch out for.
That's
because the name's cool. Don't be a zero. Do the zero.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, I've watched a lot of your videos, and I've seen you kind of struggling in the past with your deadlift, right? Yeah. You had mentioned that today.
Yes.
And you worked with Dave today on your deadlift, trying to figure out, what the next plan of attack for that is.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So it was interesting. The deficit deadlift, for example, as an auxiliary exercise, but what Dave was having me do is find what height I was pulling a deficit from. Whichever one I pulled the best on, throw it in the garbage can. Don't do that one. You got to find the one you're the worst at for your leverages. I got really long arms, and my quads are weaker in the lift, so we found what height I should pull a deficit from for a training effect, and that's also going to carry over to my bodybuilding goals as well, because I'm a polyathlete. I do everything, not all year round. Usually I layer things in seasonally in the right times, periodize them correctly in blocks. But Dave was cool enough to know that I'm not just a power lifter, you know. And he's like, okay, you got to do a bodybuilding show too, so you want to make your quads actually bigger, and your quads are a weak point in the deadlift, so let's do this. So we found some exercises that'll not only help my my goal to get to a 700-pound deadlift, but also increase my quad size, which will increase my stage presence at a bodybuilding show. So awesome.
Yes. So I like stuff like that a lot. You know, I think because I'm already long-winded to begin with, I think he kind of picked up on it. The programming part of stuff like this, I love that shit, right? Because the basic training just for a power lifter, squat, bench, deadlift, it's not that complicated if that's all you do.
Yeah.
Like if that's all you got to make better and you're committed to that, it's not that complicated. You're going to have some roadblocks here and there, genetic issues and so forth, but I'm trying to say this as politely as I can. It doesn't take a whole lot of thought, you know, to kind of put that all together. Now you start throwing in tricking, you start throwing in, you know, the bodybuilding, all these other things that are part of that. I like the polyathlete. I've never heard of that before. I probably should have.
That was good.
But it's, you know, it's like a dimensional athlete. You got to really think, how's this all fit? I love that shit.
Yeah.
I do. I love putting all that together to try to figure out what the solutions are, because a lot of people don't think there are. Like, oh, you can't do this. The hell you can't. You do anything. You know, if you put it together the right way, you may not be an all-time world record holder in any of that, but that's not even the goal. So why is that even a part of the conversation?
Right.
You know, you're probably not going to be that even if you did put 100% focus
100%
on any of these.
Yeah, and I think the really amazing part of being able to see that and see the interactions and just the high level of coaching in general is the fact that it's real coaching. And I think that's something that you don't get to see on the internet much, right? Like someone working with somebody hands-on and just dealing with whatever that person is going through, you know, in their training, in their life, right? Like taking into those considerations in the world of internet coaches that go, oh, it's either a 1 or a 0. It doesn't really fit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But, so what else is going on in your life? I noticed, I did some stalking, and you're opening up another gym, a Grip Genie gym?
Sure, yeah. You know, what's interesting was, you know, we're building a large gym on my property. So it's a 4,000 square foot, new steel building. All the equipment comes in. Of course, COVID caused building delays. So
but those happen anyhow.
No, we ran into some strange, the problems we ran into were essentially, imagine you have to build a house, but you order the furniture on time. The house is supposed to be on time, but you receive all the furniture before the house is even built. That's what we ran into. So we're shuffling around an entire room full of equipment for months. You know, the roof wasn't there. What are we going to do? Throw tarps on everything. We can't stop it at the port. We got a large shipment from Italy. You know, to have it held at Charleston Port for X amount of time. It's like, no, you can't do that unless you want to pay this amount every day. It's like
so you're talking the equipment you had to move around that much. Because that sucks to move to begin with.
Yeah, the framing, the drywall, the painting, the trim, all that stuff wasn't even there when all the equipment was there.
Shit.
So that was a problem that was not a normal problem to deal with. But that's okay. It's okay because it's worth it. You know, it's just you earned it. But, man, just like the new gym we're opening, it's like, oh, you just rent a space and you buy equipment and put it in there. We did that in a day. It's just like it's so much easier. I was like, so this is what it's like to open a gym. Okay, you just get space, you get equipment, you put it in there. That's way easier than what we've been having to do at my house. So after what we've been doing at my house, now I'm ready to start focusing on
your home gym, right, is what would you say, 4,000?
Yeah.
So were there zoning issues with? I should probably know this, but were there zoning issues with that?
Nah, because it's not zoning for business; it's zoning for residential, and which was interesting because we have one neighbor. You know, I don't know which one it is, but it has called the zoning police on us several times. Like they're opening a business. There's a bunch of people over there. You can't have it. It's like, no, that guy is just a crazy dude that wants a giant gym for himself.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is
awesome. Put some chickens out there and it becomes agricultural, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think, you know, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I could dig for some clucks.
Yes, or a cow, right? And maybe there's a tax write-off if it's agriculture.
I heard goats were good.
Goats?
Yeah,
goats
they can mow the lawn for me.
Yes.
Yeah, just sit there and eat grass all day long.
So not only are you opening that gym for Grip Genie as well, you're now having competitions, right?
We're going to, yeah. So we're doing arm lifting. USA World Super Series 2021 is an event that's having a lot of grip competitions all over the U.S. and the world, and we're gonna be one of the venues. So it's basically like, of course, all the competitions got shut down last year because of COVID. So the organization's like, well, we haven't been able to do this. Now we want to do it bigger than ever. So we're going to be doing it in multiple places. So we're going to hold one of the competitions at our new facility, which is just small. It's a small room, but it's a stepping stone to an actual real big public gym, you know.
Yeah, what are the grip events?
They double overhand deadlift with a fat grip, a block lift, a hub lift, a rolling handle, smooth, no knurling lift, and you know, I can't think of the other two off the top of my head. There's 6 of them.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a few double lifts and a few single-handed lifts. Excalibur lift. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's been a while since I was around. JL used to compete in those.
Oh,
They're
actually
fun,
well.
man.
Yeah.
You know, they describe grip training as the golf of strength sports. You know, it's what it feels like when you're doing a grip event. You know, it's just like, oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not my thing then.
But it's good because you can put a lot of intensity into it, and it's not going to kill you. You know? And honestly, like, I know if you're like what's called a quote-unquote gripster, you know, trickster, gripster or something.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at it. It's kind of stupid, honestly. But besides that, if you're really serious into it, I can imagine you can get butt hurt, you know, if you miss a lift. But it doesn't really hurt you. Like if you miss a heavy squat or a heavy bench, this shit could destroy your body.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to hurt yourself on a grip lift. So there's a lot there. It's like, just do it. You can just enter a grip competition. It's fun, you know.
When we went up to check out the grand opening of Croc's gym, Janae had a Rolling Thunder there, like a Rolling Thunder event.
Yeah.
That was the first time I ever used a Rolling Thunder before. It was brutal.
Yeah.
That was not easy.
We have one out here, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
There's a lot of cool things you can do with those the grip implements as well. Is you can
Pull downs.
You can do pull downs or rows or even pull ups with them and stuff like that. You know, I know you like the weird drop set things with the muscle groups. Well, you could do like a lat pull down to failure and switch it off to a grip, hard to hold grip one, and then or you could switch it around so you get some more back work done. Okay, so like you go to failure on like your traditional lat pull down, then you throw in the grip one with a lighter weight. Well, your grip is a limiting factor there. Your back is still exhausted, and it's getting a little extra work. Well, now you're getting your grip in, so it's fun to do stuff like that with the tools as well.
Now, how long have you been? Now, I imagine you train your grip specifically, right, for these events, right? How long have you been personally training your grip for?
About 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah. I think I started when I was like 9. Right?
Maybe 11.
Maybe 11.
That's unilateral work.
Yeah.
Both hands, though.
That's it. Now, you must have seen a tremendous carryover to your, just normal lifts. Like
that's what I was going to ask about, the actual carryover to a deadlift, right? Because a lot of people that have deadlift grip problems will go to a lot of those movements to fix the deadlift grip problems. And a lot of the times that doesn't have correspondence. So what have you seen from that? Well,
from my own personal experience, I found that the deadlifting helped my grip. Because I've always done a lot of my deadlift warm-up sets with a double overhand before switching to a mixed. I just like the feel of it. You know, when it starts to get hard to hold around, the 3 to 4s for me, typically I'll switch to a mix. And I don't have a problem doing the switch late. The technical component of that is not hard. But then you're getting a hell of a lot of sets where you're just, there's a lot of training volume, just double overhand.
Yes.
Grip. Also, walking around in a weight room, carrying around bumper plates with a pinch grip, makes you good at block lift. So doing all that stuff for so long, when I got into grip training, my hands are also fairly large, and I think I have pretty good forearm genetics. My dad's forearms are okay. So all that together is like when I first got into grip training in 2016, it was actually at a grip contest. I just entered a contest. It was a Fit Expo, like, do you want to do this? It's like, yeah, hell yeah, I just want to enter. Just throw me in there. And I did really well. It's like, cool, I'm kind of good at this. So then I just took it from there.
Have you tried finger training? Is that part of your grip training?
Yeah, no, not as much. That's more of a rock climber specific training. I'm not going to think that's going to carry over too well to everything else I do.
Okay.
So I avoid that myself.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking and putting that out there is because I think hypothetically, well, from experience too, a lot of the people that I see that have grip problems in the deadlift, their hands aren't big, right? And then they have fat hands. Then they start doing grip work, and it makes their hands fatter.
Okay.
So then it's harder for them to be able to hold. Where I heard, actually we were at a restaurant many years ago, and Ed Cohn and I were talking about grips. Now his hands, you've seen Eddie's hands, right? They're like fingers like this long, right? He was saying with the deadlift, as soon as the thumb and finger, come apart, as soon as the pinky finger opens, you're done.
Yeah.
So you can't let that open. Now, fat bloated powerlifter won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm surprised I can right now. That's actually pretty good, right? So he mentioned training the fingers for those type of people. You know, like binder clips. You know, just using a binder clip like a gripper, but for fingers.
Yeah.
Little tiny binder clips.
Yeah.
And be able to build. But that is what I've always had. I'm just saying this because the people watching for the deadlift, for the people that the other stuff isn't working.
Yeah.
Like the binder clips or anything for the fingers, like you have those webs, you know, that you can grab onto. You can sand.
Yeah.
You know, digging in sand, steel shot. You can work from the sand to steel shot and go from there. Or newspapers. And well, I guess there's no things new. I'm old.
Yeah.
Right. So newspapers don't exist anymore, but crumpling up magazines and newspapers, which don't exist.
Yeah.
You know, and helps with that correspondence, you know, for the grip stuff.
I think having a campus board or something like a rock climber would have.
Yeah.
It's just a small thing, just in your garage or something, and just doing a little bit. What I found with grip training is it's almost like a spice. If you want to improve it, the first thing I would do is think of it like salting your food. Just add a little. You don't have to have an entire grip day. You don't have to change your entire workout plan. Just add a little bit.
How's the recovery from that? Because I've heard contrary views, right? Some people say if you train your grip too frequently, just give it up. It's never going to get better, that it takes longer for the grip to recover if you're pounding it hard. Have you seen that to be I've had other people tell me the opposite.
It actually depends on the grip tool. Like grippers, I found that to be the case. Like you can't go those. I find I can't go on those as often. You know, it's more of like a once a week thing. Other ones, you know, it's more of a time of day thing, your biological prime time. You know, don't want to train grip in the morning. It's retarded. Just don't do that, you know. You want to train it. Usually the best time to train it is like in the middle of a session that you're already primed. You know what I mean? Like a squat session or a deadlift session. Just add it in there where it's not going to interfere with the rest of your accessories, the rest of the work you got to do. You know, you can add a set or two, or just right at the end, just add in a little bit, you know. And then it's not going to hurt your recovery as much.
Yeah.
And also it has to be related to the lift. The gripper isn't going to carry over to anything, honestly. Grippers are popular, they're fun, but that is not going to help your grip for deadlifting, for example. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that you had mentioned earlier, I think everybody can kind of benefit from is just merely working up double overhand on deadlifts is for a little bit longer than normal.
Oh, yeah, it helps a ton.
You know, just that idea of sprinkling it in. But what I've used with baseball athletes, like pitchers specifically, is the sand and the rice, the bucket of sand, bucket of rice. But those plate pinches as farmer's walks, like between the thumb and the index finger, and then you pinch between the thumb and the middle finger, and you just kind of work your way down.
Yeah.
And I've seen really good benefit from those for just for pitchers specifically, because they need to be able to, you know, kind of improve that grip and kind of really be able to control that baseball as much as they possibly can.
You know, this might sound insane, but just thinking off, like you're talking about the powerlifter with the short hands, fat sausage fingers, you know, hard to, you know, they might actually do very well with some soft tissue work on their hands, just getting hand massages and getting to loosen all that stuff up. They'll probably start to feel more, you know, because I think they're just kind of bound up. When they start to feel a little bit more, they could probably feel their grip a little bit better, have a little bit more control.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So actually, that's something I would recommend to someone with hands built that way.
With a lot of going back into my old multi-ply days and stuff like that, the hands would swell too. A lot of it was just because of the squat and the gear, and then the bench shirt for sure, because you know, cutting all that off, so that we'd ice our hands after the bench. You just keep them in ice to try to get some of the swelling out of that.
Yeah, do you ever raise them up overhead?
Yeah.
So arm wrestlers do that all the time.
Yeah. So stuff like that, I think, plays a role too, right? So that may even be stuff for them to do before they start training the stuff too. Before they start training any of the grip work. Or hex holds did help. I will say that. Hex dumbbell holds. Yeah. You know, I guess you would call them pinch block holds, but more about the size of a hex dumbbell. Those helped in the binder clips, but that was really for the deadlift. That's about it. And losing weight. Losing weight, but the squat goes down. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have the leverages at that point. Yeah. It's not as fun. Man, it's fun to squat when you're like bloated.
Oh yeah, it
feels so good. It's like I love this lift.
Yeah, I've spent most of my life doing that just for that reason. Right?
Bloated tick squats.
Yep. So, exactly.
So, Juji, you had mentioned arm wrestling. You just posted a video on arm wrestling, right, the other day?
Yeah. I worked with Michael Todd last week. He's a champion arm wrestler. He's going against Devin Larratt in Dubai in a couple weeks. It's a big super match they're having. They didn't have any really big matches last year during COVID, so all these arm wrestlers are just kind of like, you know, they're all biting at the chomp to do something. So this is an exciting thing. But, yeah, I worked with him last week, and just to kind of because I wanted to.
No, absolutely, and that's that's kind of one of the draws to you as an athlete is like you're kind of dipping your toe in all these different things, right? Kind of all at the same time.
So it looks like I'm doing it at the same time, and sometimes it is interference, but sometimes it's carryover. So it just depends on how I control it. So I was looking at how to incorporate arm wrestling into my bodybuilding training down the road. So I'm looking to do less arm wrestling, just a little bit here, just to supplement some arm workouts. Dude, arm wrestling is, have you seen arm wrestlers' arms? Like pro arm wrestlers, they're built differently. Their brachioradialis is just giant, and then their pronator muscles are bigger. That stuff is going to have a stage presence, and if you could just start, again, by sprinkling some arm wrestling work into your arm workouts as a bodybuilder, you have arm day, do some arm wrestling work. They know how to train this muscle here better than bodybuilders. Those hammer curls, like, try what they're doing, and this muscle over here is,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's going to be a completely different animal, and then that's going to give that side, that side look over there. So just kind of pulling out the best from all worlds here.
That's
What
great.
I mean?
Yeah, and now, as an arm wrestler, as a professional arm wrestler, like, do they train both arms? It sounds like a dumb question.
No, it's not a dumb question at all. Most of them kind of do. I know this is kind of a crappy answer, kind of, but they're competitive one. But they often, like, if you lose an arm, that's your career as an arm wrestler, And what are you going to do? Start from scratch on the other one? There's always that the thing where you get good on one, the other one's going to get good no matter what. Because there's a term for it in science. You probably know what it is.
I used to, but I know what you're talking about. It's also prevalent for rehab.
Yeah.
And it's a huge part of rehab. So tear a bicep, train the other bicep immediately.
I would
helps with the rehab.
I would say all of them have a dominant arm, but most of them train both at the top levels, and at the kind of intermediate levels, from what I've observed, they're not as balanced. They're more heavy on one. But this is just what I've observed. I may be completely wrong.
I'm more interested to see something that you said with him is they didn't have a whole lot of competing because of the COVID.
Yeah.
I'm more interested to see with those type of sports what the COVID rebound is going to be across all sports, because a lot of these guys, if just say NFL players, I mean, they still had a season, but it was a small season, but they actually ended up having a lot bigger off-season time periods where the ones that put in the work, brought up weak points, brought up those type of things. This next year across sports, for the sports that were shut down, like this arm wrestling thing, those that kept training have never had this long of an off season to heal, to work their technique and all this other stuff. So the ones that didn't do shit, just sat on their ass watching Netflix, they're not going to be, you'll be able to tell that. But what about the ones that did, right? So just think from a bodybuilding perspective. I know they still had shows, but imagine if they didn't. Right, and all these guys had to just completely deload and then have a full, I'm talking on the pro level, a full off season, more than a year. It'd be like Mr. Olympia that only competes once a year.
Yeah.
Think about the difference that can make across all sports.
Yeah.
If they do the work.
Man, the unfortunate thing is that for bodybuilding, though, a lot of them are jerked around. They prepped, and then they were canceled. So they didn't really get that break.
They didn't get that.
Oh, man, you're right. If they had gotten that break there.
Yes.
Oh, man. So many of them would be so much healthier and be so much happier. They'd enter their prep, and they just, oh, man, it would have been so cool. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, if they knew they had 18 months to the next show, it's like, well, fuck. I mean, 2 months just they're not going to be pounding things hard.
Yeah.
For a while, and they're just going to rest.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of sports that ended up happening. So when they start coming back online and start competing, I think we're going to see across almost all sports, I think we're going to see freaks pop up that we never saw before. Like, who the hell is that? And what are they doing? Right? And we're going to see other ones, just destroy people because they always had the work ethic. That's why they're great to begin with.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to watch. So that's going to be really cool to see. It's how that's going to impact. Track and field is a good example, right? It got pushed back. So what's going to happen with the Summer Olympics this year? Are records just going to get smashed like nobody's ever seen?
Right.
I don't know the answer. I'm just really curious.
Oh, man, that's a really cool perspective. I never even thought about that. Let's see what happens then.
Exactly.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, also the other side of that coin is I can imagine we're also going to see some fairly catastrophic injuries of people trying to put 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag in a shorter amount of time.
Oh, you're saying like they've been pent ups for so long, they're just going to...
Yeah, or they're have been like, we're not going to compete, and they've just been lazy.
That's even more reason to watch, right? So
Yeah,
you watch
well,
for
right,
the
it's a
accident,
train wreck.
you watch for the for the excellence,
Yeah.
and accidents.
Yeah.
Nobody watches for the other stuff.
Because imagine one of those studs that have been training that have been doing it the right way. They've been resting, and they had this time off, and they become that superstar.
They're going to destroy
They're
people.
just going to run people over, especially the ones that haven't trained. It's just going to be.
Well, I mean,
such a
there's the
different
other hidden
experience.
variable too, though, where we all know athletes that compete at high levels. They still all trained. They still all found somewhere to train. They still all found a gym to train. So a lot of them probably didn't get the rest that I'm assuming that they got. You know, if they're an Olympic wrestler, for instance, you really, really think that they just didn't train.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they didn't enter the competitions that hurt them.
Exactly.
You know, they didn't have to peak.
Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't have to peak. So that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So speaking about peaking, you're jumping into. You've done powerlifting. You've done arm wrestling. Well, you're doing arm wrestling, right?
Well, it's,
More or less. Bodybuilding as well. Bodybuilding show at the end of the year. I had a question for you. Have you done strongman? I know you've competed in the events, but have you actually competed as a strongman yet?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't. There's no reason why I haven't.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't think I'm going to do as well as a strongman. I think it's just the endurance capacity. I don't have the work capacity like they do. They're freaks. Yeah, I mean, I can't carry a sandbag like they can back and forth. There's certain things I'm pretty good at strongman. They're really niche, like natural stones. You know what that is? Like, it's not a round stone. I'm really good at that for some reason, but like that's not all strongman. You know, there's so much more to it. But definitely something I would do, but it's not on my plan this year to do it. You know,
But bodybuilding is. That's what
yeah,
you're doing?
yeah. I was going to enter one in March for the Arnold, but it got canceled.
Didn't you do a show before?
No, I haven't done a bodybuilding show yet. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking the March
So
thing.
the thing with the bodybuilding is I've always wanted to look better, you know, since I was in my late 20s, and it worked out pretty good. You know, it works for social media. It sells to be a bigger guy that does flips and lifts and stuff. You look just like a wrestler or something. It just looks cool. I like it. It's fun. But then last year I dieted for fun. I just wanted to see how shredded I could get. And then I got really shredded, you know, and everyone's like, what are you doing? Like, are you competing or you should enter a show? I was like, no, I'm just doing this for fun. And they couldn't understand, like, why? Like, what are you doing this for? There's no show. I was like, no, I just do this for fun. They're like, enter a show. Like, get on stage. You could get on stage in a week in that condition. And I was like, okay, you know, but I kind of peaked now, I guess, you know, and there's no show coming up, so it's going to have to be later. So I'll just kind of reverse diet and get ready for it. But by the time I had already reversed diet, well, the show was canceled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, it's done. So it got pushed back later this year. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you were close. You were lean.
Yeah.
You were. They're right. You were a week or two away for sure.
I have no problem doing it. I
yeah.
like it. I just did it for fun. They couldn't understand, like, why did you do that for fun? Because it's fun. I liked it. You know, it was fun. But yeah, I'll do it again.
Now, how does that kind of impact your training? What's your training look like right now?
Well, right now it's kind of in a transition period, but it's been powerlifting and bodybuilding. So I guess power building is probably what it's been. That's a good default state for me, I think, for what I do. It's just because I like to start a session with something that's just heavy, just to have a lot of weight on my back or just feel it. You know, I can't just start with leg extensions and leg curls and high rep this. Like, I want to like work up to a top set of something. You know, I just want to feel that weight. I like the way it feels. And then I noticed that if I cut it there and cut out the back off sets and just go straight to the bodybuilding, I'm stronger on the isolation work anyway. So it works, you know, like my nervous system's all jacked out. I'm just like, okay, I'm just like, now I'm doing a crap ton of weight on these isolation exercises. So it works out anyway. So I'm guessing that's kind of like the way power building is, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But that's kind of like my default way of training. But then when I'm transitioning into something specific, I'm going to repartition my time more into, you know, really focusing on that, you know, because if I'm like 2 or 3 weeks out from a comp, I'm probably not going to pull a Ronnie Coleman in squat, you know.
800 for
reps,
max reps.
So what's your training split look like? Your weeks? I know it's irrelevant to most, but most people are going to want to know. So say Monday.
We got a few questions.
Like,
about
what do you do
about that.
Monday?
Okay, so it's not the same every week. Obviously,
I get that. Not the movements, but just the big overall overreaching plan. Like Monday's leg day
Like
or
the
squat
goal
day.
of the
or-
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So There's certain body. Okay, so it's kind of like let's start with a bodybuilding split.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll always almost train shoulders by themselves.
Okay.
And the reason I do that is because the reason I got my shoulders large is because I avoided pressing movements and I avoided grouping that muscle group with other ones. So shoulder day is just shoulders, man, and that's worked really well for me.
Well, let's keep talking there, because I think the people that are into how physique bodybuilding type training, if I'm understanding what you just said correctly, you kept it as your own day because you're actually still training your shoulders twice a week. Your pressing movements are training your shoulders. Right. So your chest movements are training shoulders.
Correct.
So by putting it on there, you see what I'm saying? And if he stuck the shoulders with the chest,
Yeah.
then he's not going to be stimulating the shoulders.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'll walk you through a quick shoulder day,
Yes,
just to give you an example. It's going to start with, and this one is a little different from a power building type workout. Really heavy lateral raises. Like I'll do like 25, 30 reps, and it's heavy. Like it's not. Most people go too light on that exercise. From what I've noticed, they don't go hard enough on that exercise. Strict rest periods, like almost 4-minute rest periods. Like really try. And then I'll move on to a rear delt. That's a muscle group everyone neglects if they're trying to build their delts. That you want big rear delts.
Most definitely.
It's what gives the illusion of a large shoulder. You need that. So on that machine, that rear pec deck, you just have to go crazy on it. Again, high reps to failure. Really look at the weight too. You got to progressively overload. A lot of people don't do that when they're doing isolation work. So I'm at the bottom of the stack on my rear delts. I'm near the very bottom. Most people are like, they start at the top when they train with me. They're already halfway down. Few months later, like, damn, you get stronger if you try.
Right.
And then at that point, I'm kind of pre-exhausted, so I'll move on to like a tracked press. What I mean by that is like
a Smith machine or something like that?
Sure, like that, or like a Viking press.
Oh, yes.
Or anything like that, and again, higher reps. So I like to pre-exhaust before I do my shoulder press movements. And then usually I'll just pick, one extra one for fun and just kind of go hard, just kind of really blow up the muscle. And then that's a good shoulder day for me, and that's been working well. And then with chest, my chest is a genetic weak point. I'll focus more on flies, but I will often have to start with presses just to kind of get my body kind of going. Because if I start with flies, I kind of feel cold. And I like to do a variety of things. Hex press, dumbbell press, a Smith press is good. Bench press for fun, but I don't find it really carries over too well. And it has jacked up my shoulder a little bit. And then shoulders are getting stimulated there. So I guess you're right, on my chest day. And then I'll move on to the fly variations just to really feel the muscle. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way my shoulders work,
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's, okay, so you got a shoulder day, you got a chest, which has a lot of presses in it. Arms, usually, arms.
Yeah.
I guess
day, right?
Arm
Everybody
day pops in, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Leg day, usually start with like a heavy squats, go really heavy on them, just like top set, and then I'll just drop down to doing lots of isolation work from there. Sometimes I'll split it up between quad and ham. You know what I mean? Like some days more quad dominate, some days more hamstring
But
dominate.
still on the same day.
No, sometimes
So different days.
Yeah,
Okay,
different days
gotcha.
there. So what are you looking at? Like 4 workout days, right?
Yeah, right there.
Four or 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's look at everything else I do. I'll kind of.
Well, you don't. If you do the back, where's back fall? Does that the hamstrings? If you split it off, does that go into back day?
I usually don't do that.
Okay.
No. Back is usually going to go on arms.
Okay, so it's back and arms.
Yeah, or just do back day. So what's actually interesting if you look at a week for me, you're like 7 days.
Yes.
Well, hell, how you all fitting this in? Well, it's not on a 7-day split.
So, yeah,
it's usually
8 days,
it's
10
going to be 8 or 9 day split is
yeah.
when I get back around to things. So that it's not like a week split. It just kind of moves its way around.
Keep going with what you were about to say, because that's important. Because you say here's the other things.
Right.
Okay, so that needs to be put in here.
Okay, so like let's say flexibility work.
Yes.
Right? I can always throw that in there, but like the splits, for example, they're permanent. My splits I get carryover from everything else I do that I can always almost do them. You know what I mean? I did the side splits for the first time in 7 months, like a week ago. It was no problem. All the squat training I do and just a couple of the warm-up exercises I'll do before leg day, that's all the training I need at this point to maintain what I've built. I find that flexibility is the easiest biomotor characteristic to maintain once you've built it. Strength, Dave, what I'm talking about. Like it has this, speed has this, endurance has this, flexibility, once you build it. It's there, man. Like if you know what you're doing, and I know what I'm doing with it, man, it's good. It's easy to keep, Explosive work and stuff is more seasonal. So I'm only going to do that when I'm lighter and during hotter months. And And then what else?
Well, what's explosive work? Because people that may be listening to this are thinking like dynamic
speed
squats and
pulls.
speed bench, and that's not what you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about like jumps.
Jumps, yes.
Yeah, like you're jumping on boxes, you're doing backflips, you're doing aerials,
yes.
You're doing dynamic kicks and stuff like that. I'm going to incorporate that stuff seasonally.
Do you use different surfaces too, like sand, mats, concrete, for the landing?
Yes. Okay. So what I recommend is, if you have the option, gymnastics flooring is always your best bet.
Yes.
Always. Because if you're training on grass or a hard surface, what I've noticed is people that train exclusively on gymnastics flooring, which is basically plywood with some really hard springs, it gives you just a little bit of a punch, they can always go and train on the harder surfaces. There's always carryover. They're always going to beat a guy that's always training on the harder surfaces. That's what I've learned. But, some people don't have access to it, so they do the best they can, Sand is going to be good to, if you're just want to do some flips into it, but it changes how you take off. It changes the dynamics of the takeoff, the move. Trampoline, again, good for air awareness, doesn't fatigue you. You can really train the coordination component of it. You can do it longer. So it's kind of like a mixing of those things, yeah. But again, that explosive jumping work is only seasonally for me. I'm not doing that right now because I'm at my heaviest body weight. I'm like 260. There's no way in hell I'm doing flips. And I'm going to look crappy doing them anyway. I'm a little soft looking. I'm the strongest I am. But, people want to see that when you're like shredded and you feel good and you're fast.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So there's the cardiovascular component. Do you do anything for that?
I'll do I walk for 10 minutes after meals.
Yes.
I'll do cardio in the morning for 5 or 10 minutes, just like spike it up a few times in the heart rate. Sometimes at night for 5 or 10 minutes. I never do anything like longer than that. I won't do like a 15 or 20 minute or anything longer for a cardio session. That's just, the bodybuilding training's taking my breath away.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're
20 and 30 rep sets will make you breathe heavy.
Yeah. So when you're dieting, do you rely on the diet to pull the fat off, or do you also use the cardio to pull the fat off, or a combination of both? So
that's a good question. The cardio, I don't use it to burn extra calories. I just use it to help repartition and send the food where to go. You see what I'm saying? Like it's more of a changing the chemical and biological signaling than it is to like, oh, I'm just burning calories to get some extra activity. No, I don't want to do that. I do enough walking back and forth on my property. You know what I mean? I get enough steps. Like sometimes I have to sit down and be like, I just need to sit in a cool room because it's affecting my recovery.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the cardio is only for my health and for like signaling, like tell the food where to go. Sometimes if you sit for like 6 hours, you need to get up and move around, get the heart rate up. Boom. You know what I mean?
So it's a recovery type thing too.
Correct.
As well.
Yeah.
Yes, it's getting that's where even the fattest super heavyweight powerlifter that really can make an argument that they don't need to do any cardio actually does, because they need to get the blood moving to shuttle nutrients to be able to help recover.
Right.
They don't need to be on a treadmill for half an hour, but walking down the driveway, coming back and forth.
Yeah, and I think the feeder workouts, that was popular at Westside, that's very similar idea, but it's very specific to where you're sending it. It's like, okay, no, I'm doing backward sled pulls. You're taking out the eccentric component, which is helping you not overtrain, but at the same time, it's like, little quad is doing this. You just did squats yesterday. You know what I mean? So now you're sending the nutrients to your quads, which is what's screwed up because you used them yesterday really hard.
Yeah. So you put thought into that whole recovery aspect as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Recovery and training are like the same thing for me. It's like, it's all like, if you had to put it out on paper, like there's just things you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we were talking about earlier when you lay it all out. Over a period of the year, all these things got to kind of fall into place. And then a lot of them, and everyone wants to talk about habits, right? Like everyone wants to create new habits. These all end up being habits after a while.
Oh yeah.
They just have to be in there because you don't I don't like recovery work. Actually, I actually hate it. But if I don't do it,
I feel like shit.
I can't do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So thus I have to do it if I want to do what I have to. It's kind of how it falls into place.
Right. Exactly.
Now, we had Missy out here, was it last week? A week and a half ago, something like that? And we were talking about flips and incorporating that into her training and whatnot. And I want to get your perspective on how you kind of periodize your flips. Like, do you count how many foot touches? Do you count how many, like, I need to get an answer for this because she was going by feel, and I get it. But as like a coach in me, I'm like, that doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the same answer.
Damn.
Like, we don't count because it just is so, I don't know. It's if your skill set is very limited, it's also so qualitative based, you know what I mean? Like 5 good backflips are better than 10 backflips you just checked off.
Let's reframe this. Let's say you're working with somebody that has the potential to do the backflips, and you've taught them to do the backflips. So at this point, you don't have to teach them how. You just have to reinforce and build on what they have. Where would you, in a session where you're working with them, how many sessions a week would you advise them to do? And then when would you shut it down?
Sure.
When you're working with them.
Okay, I'll start with the second question.
Yes.
So you shut it down when the quality goes down.
Yes.
So if they're still doing really well and they're improving, yeah, keep going. For almost everyone that does anything like that, it's almost always going to be about the same amount of time. You know what I mean? After a while, it's just like, you're getting worse now, you're slower, this is not helpful anymore.
Yes.
So you either have to switch to accessory exercises, some sort of stretches, something that doesn't require as much neuro, not as much neuro, because now at this point, you know, the extra reinforcement you're giving it is not going to help it. So you have to cut it at its peak. You know what I mean? So it's like you top out and then you go from there. So, but for the first question is, it depends on your age and it depends on what else you do. So if all you do is flips, you know, you can do, I would say 3 is the perfect number for what I found. 3 really good sessions a week if that's all you do. If you do strength training and, you know, accessories and you like to, you know, go to the gym and stuff, well, that number changes. Also changes with age, as you probably know, like gymnasts, who are younger, they train more frequently, and the older ones train less frequently, so there's less days. So for me, if all I did was do flips and stuff about every 4th or 5th day, is how much I can handle, you know, at my size and age right now. But I do all the other stuff too. So then by the time I get to that 4th or 5th day, you know, in my rotation, I have to be like, well, what am I putting before it? I'm definitely not putting squats the day before it. I could put an arm day before it, though. I could probably manage that. That's not going to throw me off too much. You know what I mean? So then you have to always put that first in the schedule, because speed and technique and that type of work with the dynamic aerial movements, that's always going to come first in your week of training in terms of priority. That you have to do that when you're freshest. Everything else after is like, it's going to fall into place.
Here's the bigger question, right? Because you have all this training going on. You have to do all these things, you have to mesh together, block together, and so forth. Then you're a content creator and you're an entrepreneur, right? So where, you see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going here. Yeah. Like, so you don't sleep, I get that, right? So how do you, and I don't like the word balance, right?
Okay.
I don't believe that really exists, right?
Yeah. No, you're either on one extreme or the other.
But you manage it all.
Yeah.
So what have you found helpful to be able to manage it all?
Planning.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's the only thing you can do. It's just planning, like looking ahead, looking at it. It's like, when is the appropriate time for me? You know, because, okay, let's say as an entrepreneur, right? And then I have to do this whole migration system for a website and change the face of my entire platform and blah, 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 blah. Well, when is the right time to do that? Is it 2 weeks out from a bodybuilding show? No. No. Is it right before a powerlifting meet? No. You know what I mean? So then you have to periodize your life. You know, it's not just, you're not just periodizing, you know, training modalities and blocks, you know, in a chain. You're also periodizing your life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And sometimes for some people, the best thing you can do is, okay, well, look, you got 2-month block here. Why don't you actually put training on the back burner, take care of all this other crap in your life so that you don't have any friction points in your life? Because if you have all these other things going on constantly while you're always trying to train, you're trying to always like push through and have all this other life shit that's bothering you. Well, what if you throw that in as its own block? I know it sounds crazy.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? But then you take care of it, you build the systems that self-perpetuate the success, and then you move from there, and then, okay, cool, I got time to train.
Yes.
There we go. I don't have a bunch of problems in my life anymore. I took care of those in my life block.
Yeah. So I do similar things, but the one thing I do with the training is that's all. I always know what days I train and around about what time. And when I say around about, let's say during the week I train, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, around about 10:30.
Yeah.
Right? It might start at 11, but it's going to happen. It's going to start probably and then on Saturday and Sunday, it never changes. Those go into my schedule. I don't have to put them in a schedule because it's just there. It's permanent. It's not going to move no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's the only thing I have total control on. Right.
It's training.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like I don't want to say I'm a control freak. Right.
Right.
But I have to have control of something. Right. And business is a lot of managing variables that are somewhat within your control, but mostly not.
Okay.
Right. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen the next day.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of that's because, you work with people, right? And the people aren't you. So you're working with people, and people are different. Customers are different. They're different than you. That's not right. That's not wrong. It's just what it is. Right. So you can't predict people, right? You can't predict what's going to happen the next day or whatever it's going to be. But by having that semblance of control, it's easier for me to know, no matter, unless it's something catastrophic.
Yeah.
That, okay, let's just get through here. But this time I don't have to think about this. I don't have to think about.
So would you say it's almost kind of like your version of meditation?
It's my version of getting the fuck away from it.
Okay, good.
So I guess that would be that. But I also have staff, right? So I can get away from it. And then other people are kind of, fumbling the ball around it. Let's say if it's something I have to really be involved in, like a migration's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you got to be involved with that, then it's okay. Look, I'm going to hand the ball off for a couple hours, but then I'll be back in. But that, if I take that away and make it to where I'm just going to train when it's most convenient for me to train, I would never train.
Okay. Because
there's too many uncontrollables that happen within a period of a day.
Yeah.
If it's because other people, it can be my kids, it can be my wife, it can be, customers, it can be staff, it can be, there's all these other variables. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Where I might have more of those variables than what you do because you don't have kids,
Yeah.
But you have cats.
They're easy. Cats are 0 out of 10 difficulty. Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there because there's different ways when you speak about entrepreneurs, because the other difference is if I ask you what time you begin work and what time you end work, it's every hour you're awake.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
Just
how
off
it
and
is,
on.
right? So it's not like we're clocking out at 5. So the ability to say, look, I need these couple hours just to get the fuck away.
Yeah.
I'm still, looking at emails and taking care of shit until I fall asleep.
Right.
And the first thing in the morning, you get what I'm saying? So
yeah.
That's kind of my take on it. It's what but I used to do, this is now this is clicking now. I used to do what you're talking about when I was still competing. And maybe this is why I'm thinking different, because I don't compete anymore. When I was competing, that was when shortly after I started the company, and seminars were fucking me up, man.
Okay.
I'd do a seminar, I got to go out of town, so I'd squat on Friday. I never missed my training. So I'd squat on Friday, literally leave the gym with blue heat on, smelling like shit, and go straight to the airport fly where I had to go to give the seminar the next day, give the seminar, and then do my speed benches there, and then fly home that next day. And Louie, he's like, these are going to fuck you up. These are going to fuck you up. I'm like, no, man, you're full of shit.
I can do this. I can do this.
No, man. A couple years later, it's like, okay, none of this is really working well.
Yeah.
Business isn't doing shit. My training isn't going for shit. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take all that shit off my plate 10, 12 weeks out before meet. Immediately after the meet, I'm going to schedule like 4 seminars a day or 4 seminars a week, for a month, and just blast them all into there. Now, of course, I wasn't training, because of that. So I kind of was doing what you were talking about. Like, okay, this time frame, nothing's going to happen, But when I started competing more, the problem was nothing happened business-wise.
Well, that's a major problem a lot of bodybuilders run into, because I find that, the way the bodybuilders have to structure their training, their diet, their lifestyle. It's a wonder any of them can ever do anything entrepreneurial. Most
definitely.
It's just like, God, I understand why this is so hard for you. But yeah, it's just sometimes if you're not a pro bodybuilder, or you're not trying to get to that level, if you just want to look better, then you should be able to find ways to schedule those times of year. And I don't think it's like good to look at them as times a day or week or whatever. It's more like long term, like what is going to happen in March, what is
that annual plan, right?
And it's a little easier now too, because when I started, the internet did exist, but it wasn't like there was the social media, all this wasn't there. And I remember I had a pager, You know, so my voicemails would go to a pager, then I'd have to call in for the messages, and it's freaking old, right?
Yeah.
And but where I'm getting at is I trained in the morning, you know, at Westside, so I wouldn't get to my work until like 12:30 or 1, and that was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that's 3 days of the week. So the business growth, it didn't grow. I mean, it suffered bad, you know, for all those years, but I never knew how bad it was suffering because I never had a business before. I had no basis of comparison until I quit doing that. And then it's like, oh shit, had I been doing this to actually be here to answer the calls at 9 in the morning, I would have made more sales. You know, because I'm like, fuck it, I got to train. I'm not going to do that. I'll just do it later. You know, I'll check my pager and so forth. Where now I think it's a little more manageable because so much of it can be conducted with a phone. Yeah. But it is a tricky. I couldn't imagine being a bodybuilder during that time. Right. Now it's still more manageable. It's still hard because you are right. The meals and I mean everything. It's just it's not. It's a lifestyle. It's not a sport. Really, I mean, it's a freaking ton of time.
It is.
Because you're only competing on the stage for that, I don't know how many few minutes, but it's your entire life outside of that.
Yeah, I don't know if many of them now do 2-a-day trainings, but you know, back when I was kind of, I'm not even going to talk that long ago. I mean, the 2-a-day training was a big thing for the bodybuilders. Like, holy crap, you know. Yeah. You know, that's 4 hours of training just there without commute time, and then all this other stuff, and that's crazy. You know, so. Then they get a sponsor for $150 a month. Yeah.
Also, I think like garage gym and equipment and stuff is more accessible now. More people have that at home. So training twice a day is like, oh, okay, well, you know, what is training anyway? You know, is it 15 minutes? You know, is it training effect? You know, like, is it defined by time period? Is it defined by effort? Not really. It's just. Is it pushing you closer to where you want to be? So it's not like, oh, I have to do training. I think the problem is when people think of training twice a day, they think of like 2 1-hour or 2-hour sessions a day. Like if you can get out of that mindset, that that's what 2 a day means, you're going to be able to find extra activity instances that seem to fit in later. You know, to just break things up. You know what I mean? But I see.
Wow, this can become a big rabbit hole here.
Oh man, this is a rabbit hole. We're just skirting around this right now.
I mean,
we're like a penny
jump right in.
Going down this little circular thing. You know, it's about to get really deep.
It's going to get really weird because what I'm about to say is the bodybuilders today have they have a greater ability to monetize their time than before. Where they had to rely 100% on a supplement company or a sponsor to be able to pay them, which is a very limited number, to where now they can make their own income, you know, through social media and doing things this is the rabbit hole, right? Where, you know, a lot of them may think, well, I should be making what he's making, but yet they have no personality. They don't know their craft, but they're at least in a position now to where they can control their revenue if they want to. You know what I'm saying? If they want to, they can control that. So then, you know, the strive and the desire to be a pro is still there. Yeah. But it should be easier for them financially. Yeah. To be able to go down that road today and any other time in history.
I think there's also a discrepancy, as you know, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you pick this up. Whereas, like in the 80s and 90s, like how did they get such good results back then when they didn't have nearly as much technology? It's because they didn't have this. Yep. Like, okay, this is how you monetize, you know, and be able to fund this lifestyle without having to go to work. You get a supplement sponsor, you get a couple grand a month. You know what I mean? Oh, all right, so I'm good. I just train and then I just post my posts here and there. But then you're looking at that all the time, and it's affecting your mindset. It's affecting your mental space.
Welcome to the rabbit hole.
Yes.
Now we're in your domain now, though. Right? So let's keep going down this rabbit hole, right? Let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. You're still running a business. You still have all your own training. You still have all this. You've managed this social media landscape, obviously, very well. So where do you see, not from the standpoint of building channels, right? Because I think that's really kind of hard, you know, to start giving advice on what they really, really need to do. Because everybody's different. Everybody's a personality. I think we can agree on the number one thing is their personality, to monetize who they are, not to be somebody else. Where do you see them screwing up as far as the draining of time, right? So let's say you picked up the phone, it's a distraction.
Yeah.
Right? So that phone, it's a distraction, but it's also a way to monetize.
Correct.
It depends on how they use it.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Exactly. So tell me about the sword, how you manage the sword.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
I think I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know. I can't tell you, because you could think like, okay, I'm going to only do business activities right now. I'm only going to respond to the correct things. I'm going to post. I'm going to walk away, and then I'm going to get work done. And wow, I just took 15 to 25 minutes to do a job, and now sales are coming in. But then you have to have the self-control, or at least some sort of, habits, quote unquote, in order to not look at it again, not check how are people responding, But at the same time, feedback. But at the same time, you have to go like, what is the feedback? Because I need the feedback in order to make my next move. So how often are you pinging for feedback there? You see what I'm saying? So finding a balance between being able to do the act, leveraging the social media and the technology that we have now, but also having the self-control and the hygiene, to be able to be present right here.
It's a good word. That hygiene. That's a good way to describe it.
But you've had to have learned some things, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what are a couple things that you've learned from that hygiene perspective that you have built into you created the habit for? Like, do you check your screen time?
No, I don't anymore, and I'll tell you why. The reason is because it takes me a while to edit my Instagram stories. If anyone actually, looks at my stories, there's text, there's shit that flies up. I sit there and I make that happen. I put a little bit more effort into it because, what's the point of doing stories every day if no one watches them? So if you spend an extra 15 to 20% of your time on them to make them something that's entertaining and they're watching them, then it's better to put the extra 15 to 20% time to make them worth something than just not even do that and get zero return on your investment of time in that regard. But, you're asking, how do I control that? The screen time, for example, you asked me. Because the thing doesn't know, like, it'll tell me I spent like 11 hours on Instagram, the past, few days. Well, how much of that was editing stories, posting them, responding to people? And doing business through it, because it's also an inbox. It's also my email inbox. I'm doing, exchanges and purchases and, collabing and networking and scheduling through the app. It's not just me scrolling down my feed. So looking at a number and be like, man, I spent 11 hours on Instagram. It's Wednesday. Since Monday, I spent 11 hours on this app. This is ridiculous. Am I just another millennial that's stuck on his phone? Well, sometimes I am. Sometimes I'm sitting on the couch. My cat jumps up on me. And I'm just like, frick, man. No, I'm not getting up for another 15 minutes. You know what I mean? But then you just have to, realize, like, just don't do that as often.
Yeah.
It's not about cutting out the habit completely. It's not about completely getting out of it. It's just like, just do it a little bit less often to start with. From there, just recognizing it when it happens and being able to pivot.
So then there's the process of, say TikTok, right?
Okay.
So if you wanted to go into TikTok, that's a bigger decision than just going into TikTok, right? Because you got to sit there and think, okay, how much time is this going to take? What's the leverage of that? Because it's not just like joining a network for you at that point,
right?
Because where's that time going to come from?
Yes.
Yeah, you need that content strategy going into every decision that you make going forward.
So I guess that's kind of where I'm going, is you can't just jump on it, because where's the time going to come from? Is it going to leverage off of, Instagram or YouTube? Where's it going to come from?
It's not. That's why I'm not on TikTok.
Exactly. There you go. I mean, there's kind of where I'm going here, right?
Yeah.
Is you're selectively looking at what could be that next platform, but then you have to sit there and think, is there the time to be able to do this? And when to make the jump, if that jump has to be made, because you're going to have to jump off of something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To be able to do that.
It also has to, like, the platforms, as a content creator, you have to look at them from, is this different from this one? Because YouTube, for me, is long format videos.
Yes.
Those are things where people can actually listen to me talk about stuff. Instagram is more whiz bang, boom, whatever that crap it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's fun in its own regard. So there's different uses. So it's like, okay, if I'm filming for YouTube, I might be able to get top-down footage that goes on Instagram. Or if I have an idea for something that goes on Instagram, I could extend it to a longer format, YouTube. So then I'm trying to look for crossover. But in terms of like, you know, for example, TikTok is like, this seems like a Instagram thing. You know, it's very similar. You know, where is the, you see them?
Yeah.
And of course, these platforms will completely inflate and saturate their user base with bots to give the user a feeling of satisfaction from, oh, I got 600,000 followers on TikTok, you got to jump on. Yeah, how many of those are fake from the platform, inventing fake accounts to give the users the high that they're getting followers? You see what I'm saying? That's not regulated very well right now. They haven't begun regulating that as too much yet. So then it's like, is this even real? Like, what are you going to do to monetize that? Because, you know, it's like, it's not all about monetization, but at the same time, like,
kind of is. It's your time.
Yeah, it is my time.
Right, yeah.
You know, I would rather spend quality time, and some of these platforms help me do that. I'm with you right now because we're both doing things on these platforms.
Yes.
We both have things in common. We both like to talk to each other. It's cool. We both like powerlifting, lifting weights. Great. But, you know, aside from that, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize the amount of work it takes to create a YouTube video, right? It's not just you walking, right?
No, dude.
Like you plan this shit. It's like hours and hours of planning.
Yeah, well, it's not only that, but it's hours and hours of post. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it takes a long time to edit.
And if you travel somewhere,
I'm here. It took me 8 hours to drive here. You know, it takes 2 people. You know, and then it takes more people, and then it takes more people. You know, so by the time the first video drops next week of me and you working out in this gym, how many people can I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like that video took 6 people, you know, out of 3 different groups in order to get together, in order to make something that's going to be 15 minutes. It didn't take 15 minutes of time. There's your answer. It didn't take 15 minutes of time. It took an entire week of work.
And it's not just you and Sam walking around with a camera. Like it's a team effort in all
I'm
regards.
taking that you've heard this before.
Oh, yeah.
That people are like, what do you mean? It only takes
that
10
sounded
minutes.
like it was a button.
Like
there.
he's getting a little fired up.
Yeah.
I like it.
No, it's just like
Get the nose torque.
it says you get paid just to work out. That's what I get. That's the one that's like. So what do you do for a living? Like, you have no idea. That's okay. I'm not going to explain it. I'm just not going to answer it. You know?
So what everybody sees is it's the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh God,
you know,
this is 10 times more work than my day job was.
Yes.
The good thing is I love it. You know what I mean? The thing about this is kind of like sidestepping, but from my experience, making a living being me, I'm Jujimufu. Making a living being me, and this is my passion. If I lost all my money doing this right now, or just like I couldn't get paid to do it anymore, I would still do it. I just wouldn't do as much of it. So in order to take it from point A, you know, I'm not able to monetize myself, to point B, I'm making a great living being myself. I have to be myself more than I want to be. You know, you have to do it more than you would want to do by default, that when you did it for fun, to where it becomes work.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, I love this so much.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's like, I don't frickin' want to do this right now. But it has to be done.
It has to be done, yes.
Yeah.
It's like any other job.
Yeah. But that's not like it all the time, you know. 'Cause
I
like it a lot,
Yeah.
you know. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. So I like it more than I dislike it when I don't want to do it. So
Well, that's the goal of any job you like.
yeah,
right? You know.
All right, so we got some questions coming in for Juji here, and I think it's a good time to kind of transition and start taking some of the questions from the audience here. From Instagram, this will start off with an easy question for you, Juji. Do you think you could train Dave to do a backflip?
Dave, when was the last time you jumped?
Got him.
No, I got you. When was the last time you jumped? When was the last time both your feet left the ground?
Ooh.
You know,
That's a great question, isn't it?
That's really good.
last week I had to sit in a handicapped toilet. It was a little high and my feet popped off the ground. So, you know, I've been advised not to jump because of the hip replacement. So there you go.
Okay.
The last time I jumped before, let's take the hip excuse off the table. At least a decade.
Okay.
I mean,
Yes.
Here's the thing.
I love
I used to do box jumps a lot because I was more explosive than I was strong. But what I found when I was doing the box jumps, they didn't really help me. right? Because
you're explosive already.
Yes, it didn't matter. I could always jump on a reverse hyper, which was like 42, 44 inches.
Wow, really?
Not that one.
That's really good, actually.
But yes, but it was normally it was, like a bar, jumping up on a bar. It used to be a trick I used to do when I was in college boxing. Everybody leave, just jump on the bar.
Yeah.
So I could train to make it better, and did. I had different cycles, and based upon percents of box height and all. It never made a difference. So I'm like, okay, that would be that's not even a real jump, but it's it's kind of a jump.
Yeah.
That's at least a decade ago.
Okay.
And that probably was just because somebody was talking shit, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I can jump on that right now, and then just did it, and they're like, oh my god. I'm like, see, I told you, I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Then you limped out of the room.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but even with all that, I don't know if I could have done it better. My spatial awareness is not good. So that would have been my limiting factor, I believe, is trying to figure that out.
See, for most people, it's like when they ask me, you think I can learn a backflip? And when I ask them, when was the last time you jumped? It's like it blows their mind sometimes. They're like, what? I don't even know. Like, it's a fun question to ask someone.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
the answer is no.
So the answer is no.
So that video's coming then, right?
Yeah.
So another question that we got coming in, talking about your was that a transformer bar squat that you did the other day? That 700.
Yeah.
700 for 2.
Uh-huh.
Now, was that something you peaked for, or was that something that you kind of just fell onto?
Oh, I squat every real heavy every 6 to 8 days, and I usually just see what I can do, and then I kind of curtail the rest of my workout to it. And I was going to go for 1, and I did 2.
Mm-hmm. The body weight's helping you. The leverage is
Oh, man, I know, yeah. Also, as strange as this sounds, I could have done more if I was in a mono, but I had to walk it out because I didn't have anyone to help me that day, so I was by myself. Anyway, it worked itself out because I would play really freaking loud music. Training partners don't like that sometimes. But I had a mirror in front of me, and I haven't squatted in front of a mirror in
oh shit,
10 years, and that helped my walkout. I could see myself in my foot.
I can see that. You see your feet, yeah.
Yeah, I see my feet. I was like, holy crap, this is helping me so much. Yeah, it's still heavy, but I could put myself this is solving part of the problem that I have with walkouts. So that's, I think, what really helped me.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's why, as powerlifters, we have people face away from the mirror so they don't become reliant on that.
Yeah.
Because you go to a competition. So keep that in mind when you go to compete again.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't lifted in front of a mirror in 10 years.
It will help you now, but if you go to the meet and you don't have that visual awareness, you're like, oh, shit. It messes you all up again.
All right, we got a few more that came in here. A few questions about you and John Meadows. When are you guys going to be collaborating?
Tomorrow. Yeah,
tomorrow. A duck walk.
We want to do duck walks.
I'm giving them things to do, which is completely wrong.
Hey, you can come join us, Dave.
Yeah.
But those videos will be out on YouTube next week, and I'm sure there'll be videos with on John's channel next week as well. If we just sync them up.
Beautiful, perfect. Another question just came in. Are you and Antoine still close?
Oh yeah,
we have. I remember you both from trick tutorials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting mentioning about Antoine and Tricks Tutorials. So the first thing on the internet, I opened a forum called Tricks Tutorials in May of 2002. And that's where I got a large group of early followers, people that are friends now. But the first day it opened, this is how me and Antoine met. The first day I launched the site, I don't know, I was just blessed with good success because I had 100 people come in out of nowhere on this website. Now I had 100 members on my forum on the first day. It's active, it's moving. Antoine emails me, and that was when this is all new to me. It's like, oh, no one ever emails me. And then I'm in a conversation with this guy in Canada, and this is before he was bodybuilding. This is before I was bodybuilding. We're just and then we're sending each other videos of us doing flips, and we're interacting on a forum with a bunch of other people, and then we just became friends. And we've been friends since. So I messaged him yesterday. I think I just did. I watched one of his. I look at his story post on Instagram, and I'm just like, yeah, gas prices are high in Canada, and we're laughing about it or something. You know what I mean? So yeah, I keep in touch with him all the time. And he was supposed to come to my house and work out my new gym next week, but he tore his bicep, and now he's getting surgery next week. So
Well, he knows what to do this time.
Don't try to move a mini fridge by yourself.
Yikes!
That's just I can kind of, it's just a mini fridge, right? So I can kind of what's the big deal? But you never know, right?
Yeah.
That's tough. All right, so now we got another question just came in. Juji, who are your 2 favorite people who inspired your lifting career?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't know. When people ask me, like, who do you look up to the most and who are your biggest inspirations, I'm always kind of left like, I don't know. I can tell you, it's just I've gotten a lot of good information from a lot of different people, and I like a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. But I'm sorry, I can't give you 2 people.
I get that. I'm the same way.
All right. Let's see. So now, let me pull one of these out. Some of these questions are just not.
Where are these from?
Great.
What is
these,
that?
These
is
are
that
from
a fax?
These are our frequently. I had to print it out. It was question facts.
That's it.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit already, but your bodybuilding career, is your goal to go pro?
I mean, I just want to look as best as I can, and I want to get as good as I can at it, and I want to be able to use what I've built and created for myself. And I mean, I think I can do a really good posing routine, man.
Now, how do you
like? I think I could do it. I think if I trained it and spent the time and I'm setting up for it, I think my posing routine could be really freaking good. And I want a really good posing routine. I want to look the best I've ever looked, and then let the rest fall where it's going to fall.
Now, do you work with somebody with your posing, or will you?
Oh yeah. So I'm going to get some coaches for that, just based on availability. So I had some coaches lined up for before the Arnold, but of course that was going to be my contest, but it got canceled, and I'm not posing practicing right now because I want to do a 1,000-pound bar spider squat with Dave,
Which you did.
which I did.
Which you did.
Yeah, which I did. So I've been playing with my lifts more and stuff, but the posing will come back in probably a few months. Yeah.
Let's talk about that squat a little bit. That was quite impressive, first and foremost, to come out here and never really do that version of that squat and to hit that number. Congratulations. That was big stuff.
Well, thank you.
Though I do think you have more in the tank, but I guess that's more of a...
Well, I had Dave give me all the secrets. I mean, that lift has actually got a lot of secrets in it. There's a lot of foot placement and stuff. That would have taken me a little while to figure out on my own, but he knew everything. It was like, push your feet forward, spread your stance more, mark where your feet are, spread your knees. I would have pushed it. I was just all this crazy, like the band is going to do this. You have to, like, the bar is going to squish you more, so you have to change the mono rack. It's like, well, I wouldn't have figured this crap out on on my own without a lot of time. So that's why I was able to do as much as I did today. I had someone who knew all the secrets to the lift. So
I'm an expert at one thing.
yeah.
The high box, what do we call this? The high box spider bar reverse band. Sometimes I put chains on.
Oh yeah.
Just because I can.
Yeah,
for
just
the
to make
whole
it even
thing.
more
But
complicated.
a lot of people, I think the cool thing about having him do it is sometimes, kind of as I was telling him, I don't know if I'm good at it or not, right? Because part of this whole post-competitive life, post-hip replacement life, is to do a lot of things I've never done before, so I can never compare it to what I used to be.
Okay.
Because it would just make me mad.
Yeah.
Because it'd be like, because I'm doing that now with the bench, because I'm starting to, I finally was able to get the bar to touch my chest again after forever. Still, it hurts like hell. But as I'm building it back up, I'm running into these conversations with myself like, okay, this is kind of like I don't want to say a PR.
Yeah.
But
it is.
But it still sucks compared to what I used to do. So that basis of comparison is a big mind fuck, which I just try to avoid. So if I come up with something like a reverse spider, I have no idea what's good with that, right? And then nobody else really does it because they just look at me like I'm out of my mind.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. I'm doing what I want to do. It's heavy for me when I get to a certain point. I got something to train for. So I never know. And as I was telling you, the one time one of the guys out here just got underneath when I was in an early phase of training that, I just got underneath it, did it for 10. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's that. And I used to do you did the deadlift chain thing too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that used to be another one where I would do high reps with 275 and like 10 chain per side.
Yeah.
And as many reps as I could. So it's like, for a while it was like 9, then 12, then 15. And it was also on blocks.
Okay.
So it was from the below the knee. What I'm trying to do is to create a chaotic environment that's the safest for me to do, so I won't destroy myself in too bad of a way.
Yeah.
And I was doing that. I was training that one time, and I think it might have been Brandon Smithley, like one of our sponsored lifters, a lighter guy. He just walked up to it and just ripped it up like it was nothing. I'm like, oh, man, I'm suck.
Yeah.
But the pressure is what I like about it, which you got to see, the pressure in your head,
Yeah.
you know, with the heavier weight. So that kind of validated that I still kind of suck, you know, compared to what I used to, but I don't suck as bad as I thought I did. But now he could have done way more. You know, your starting point was like 200 pounds heavier than where my starting point would be with that.
Yeah.
So I guess the other thing is I don't want to say, I want to say it kind of like makes the lift legit because it's totally not. But
More so.
But it's not. I mean, it's a
More so.
reverse band thing that takes a ton of weight off. But to see somebody else come out of it like, holy crap, that was heavy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, now, at least now, probably nobody else in the world understands why I do it.
Yeah.
Now you kind of get
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
right? Because you're underneath there, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's just your head's getting squished.
Yes.
It's just like, but it's, obviously the pressure's not on your head, but that's a lot of pressure
Yeah.
on your body.
Because you
Yeah.
still need to stabilize the weight at the top. Like, regardless of reverse bands, like, you're still unracking.
Oh
that
yeah,
weight.
yeah. That stuff's kind of wavering, so you don't want to go down. It's like I can't get back up, but you can because
Yes.
the band tension is going to lie you at the bottom. So it's I had to try it.
Yes, yes.
It's
To me, it's fun. And
Yeah.
when I get to a certain weight with that too, it's also, I have to get serious.
Mhm.
Like there's a certain, and that's probably what I'm addicted to the most with this training thing.
Yeah.
Is I understand you got to do the monotony of the training. I get that probably more than most people. But there's those sets,
Yeah.
right, and those singles and stuff. You can't be you, right? I got to
Yeah.
be somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I love that shit.
Yeah.
Because it becomes super serious. Like if I don't get under there the way I'm supposed to, I'm not going to pick it up.
Right.
Like I have to be under there the way I am. And then for the last set, it's like, okay, I need to go this completely other. Now I don't do that every workout, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes time.
But it's fun, but as someone who has seen it since I started here in March, I mean, when I would see it online, I was like, oh, that's super intense. And then you kind of get almost a little jaded by it. I see him do the lift the whole time, but then to see somebody new do it, it's like, oh shit, that is hard. Like that is a very difficult lift to do, regardless of boxes, bands, whatever. And it's going to be cool to see when the video comes out. Is on your last attempt, you get that like split second of, oh shit.
Yeah, that was the last attempt was the only set I did where I stood up with it, but I didn't actually get it up. And I was like, God, please don't unrack it right now in the mono because I'm just going to collapse. And you guys are good enough not to move the thing out of the way.
Well, to be fair, it wouldn't have. You didn't move it that much.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was just like, please don't. Yeah, and then I had to, this is serious. And then 5 or 6 seconds later, I was able to actually get it up to where you could release.
Well, and I told him, you know, on your video, some of the reasons why I do it, you know, because of the hip replacements, and I'm trying to control my stupidity. The other thing that you saw with that is I can also keep the volume, the number of reps, way down with that, and still go super heavy. So count how many reps you really did until the top set. It was probably under 10 for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So think about that for a minute. You were able to do a maximum effort on a lift that required less than 10 reps to really warm up.
Right.
Right. So I have, you know, 2 hip replacements. I'm trying to not accumulate a lot of wear and tear on those. So that compared to, say, I was going to work up and do a heavy ass to grass squat.
Right.
It's going to be way more than 10 reps.
Oh, yeah.
You know, to be able to get there. So I'm lowering the wear and tear. You know, so there's a lot of, I can justify this a million different ways.
Yeah.
Which is really what it comes down to, right?
So we got another question just came in. Juji, your excitement and positivity are so contagious. They have been, you've been inspiring since you started. I've been following you since about 10,000 subscribers. How do you keep that positivity up, and how can I kind of implement some of that positivity in my own life?
Well, thank you so much for the kind words.
And that was Ben Clark.
Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate it. How do you stay? What's this?
How do you stay positive?
Let me intervene. Is it? That's what they're seeing, right? So I'm going to go out on a limb here and pretty much say your entire day is not like that.
Oh no. No.
Right. So while it's not a
Sam's over there, my
yeah,
wife. Yeah.
Well, it's
She's
not
like,
an
"Oh,
act, you know, but it is still a persona
Mm-hmm.
that has to be on there. But I've met you now more than a handful of times, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in general, on that scale, you're more of a positive person than you're a negative person, right?
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to interject here is to not have a false impression that you're walking around on a cloud 24/7.
Oh, yeah,
right?
no way.
So now I think that's going to make it easier for you to answer the question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not filming all the time. My stuff isn't constantly on there, so it's in between. You know, I might still be in a good mood, but you know, I'm generally not going to, you know, put something out on the internet if you know if I'm pissed or if I'm depressed. You know, sometimes I get sad and I'm just not happy about something, or I'm having a bad day. You know, it happens, but it is kind of my job to be in a good mood, and sometimes the fake it till you make it thing works. It actually does. Like, oh, I have to just make this up, and just I have to bring myself out of this. And a lot of times, just the need, the necessity to have to do that will cheer me up. You know.
Does it really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's like I really have to, you know, put on my happy face. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I really don't want to do it, but a lot of times when I do it, I'm good. Like, oh, that actually like worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, in general, I don't have to do that often. Not nearly. It's not like I have to do that all the time. I do have to do it sometimes, but I don't know. I just try to have a sense of humor about myself. You know, it's just, okay. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to answer this, but as mentioned earlier, I do multiple things, so I'm not the best at any one thing. Which means I have a head check constantly. Like, powerlifters are stronger than me. Bodybuilders look better than me. People that do flips are better than me. You know what I mean? Arm wrestlers shit all over me. You know what I mean? I mean, everyone is better than me at something. So after a while, it's just like, you can't, you know, if you take ego out of the equation, I think you will. Like, I think that's probably the best answer I can give you.
Yeah, that's a good
Take
segue.
ego out of it, and you will be happier a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, have a sense of humor about yourself, because everyone is better than you at something. But you're good at things too, and just enjoy them.
And if you're down and in a bad mood, fake it.
Yeah, if you're when you can. Sometimes
when
you just can't. But you know, if you have the idea to do it in the first place, and you do it and it works, well, hell, there's a win you wouldn't have had if you didn't have the idea.
There you go.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I see a lot from the content you put out when you visit other places, talk to other coaches, this, that, and the other thing. You always have that white belt mentality.
Yeah.
You will always take something away. And you can always tell that you are genuinely listening and absorbing that information. And I think that, again, that you drop the ego. It's like you could say, oh, I have 1 million subs, blah, blah, blah. I know all about everything, blah, blah. But like you take, even if the cameras weren't rolling, you and Dave were going to interact the exact same way talking about your deadlift today.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, he knows a million things more than I do about it. And I'm the one struggling with my lift, so it's going to take that way.
But I think that's something is a good way to showcase of dropping that ego.
Yeah.
It's like just kind of accept where you're at, understand where you're at, and just gain as much information and knowledge you can from other people.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to people, you tend to learn more. You know?
It's funny how that works. Right?
Yeah, and the thing about learning is, like, if you learn something that's useful, like a lot of stuff you show, really gets you excited. So, like, one of the things, you know, I reminded myself, and I mentioned this in a YouTube video, it's just part of it, like, you know, a few months ago or whatever, but a lot of times people don't go through these learning phases, which I don't think you should always be in a learning phase all the time, because you change shit too much. But if you do, like, if you don't do that, then what happens is, when you do go through a learning phase, like, the thing you're afraid of is it's going to challenge something you've been doing, and you're going to feel like you wasted a bunch of time. Like, oh, I've been doing this wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
You don't want to know that you were wrong about something, and you waste, so you're just not even going to look. So it's like, don't even look at the scale. Don't even look at the bank account. I know the money doesn't look good. You know what I mean? Don't even look at it. But the flip side of that is, if you do it and you learn something, a lot of times, instead of feeling butthurt, like, oh man, like, I've been doing it wrong, instead it's like, oh, that's exciting.
Yes.
Like, oh man, that's cool. I can't wait to try it. And you try it, and it changes what you do, and it becomes useful, and then you improve. So it's like listening and learning like that, instead of like avoiding it because you're afraid it's going to challenge, you know, what you've been doing, and you're going to learn that you wasted this time. Instead, it's going to be, you're going to get really excited, and that's going to feel good. You know,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like what you just said there too. But there's also a time where you got to just kind of buckle down and ride the bus that you're on.
Right.
Right. So especially as competitive lifters and bodybuilders, or however that falls in there, at some point in time, you got to understand this is what it is, and this is where we're going.
Yes.
Get out of the way.
Right.
Let me go. If it's wrong, I'm going to find out later. But I can't. Otherwise, you doubt everything.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody's going to say something, you're going to be like, oh man, I got to change that. And if you're in a perpetual state of change, you're going nowhere.
Right.
So those phases are key.
Yeah, and is that something that you had intrinsically prior to where you are now? Like, did you have that even before YouTube? Were you always that inquisitive, trying to just learn as much as you can about certain things?
I think I'm open to it, and I spend more time actually outside of the learning, like looking for learning phase. I spend more because I've learned most of my stuff from just doing it my own way and trying to figure it out myself. And then if you do it that way, when you spend just a little bit of time into learning phase, like you absorb so much more because there's so much more data to compare to. You know what I mean? So your question you're asking me is like, have I always been inquisitive in learning? It is really block based, honestly. It's just like you do have to shut it off sometimes and just buckle down and see if it works and run the experiment. Because if you're constantly adding new things into it, you're going to confuse yourself and try a million different things. And shit, you know, what are you going to end up with? A casserole?
Or you don't try anything.
Well,
right?
the other side of that is you end up being a person only looking for confirmation bias, which essentially is not learning. Right. It's just trying to validate why what you're doing is right, and that this industry is packed full of that.
Yeah.
You know, whereas why that's one thing I've never really understood. Like, why do I care to validate what I already know? I have other things to be able to look for.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, if I know this is what it is, I'm not going to spend all day trying to find studies to support it, or people just to support it.
Yeah.
Because what do I learn from that? Especially if I already think I know it.
Yeah.
I want to find the other stuff that I want to find the stuff I don't know, which is a freaking lot.
Right.
Yeah. So you don't know that, right?
And then there's that information that you can obviously absorb from other people. But like you said, that experiential learning is super important, right?
Yeah. I mean, my background, for example, like tricking, like
That's
my website
experiential as it gets.
Well, I
Right?
mean, it's like the reason I opened the website to begin with was because I looked around. I was like, there's no website on the internet that teaches you how to do this stuff. And my original motivation was, I want to be that guy. So how do I do that? Well, I have to learn all these moves. In order to have a tutorial for something, you have to know how to do it. So that was my original motivation, was to learn the stuff to write a tutorial.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I was like, my goal was I have to learn 20 different moves. Otherwise, you don't have enough moves on the website. Otherwise, like, who wants to go to a website called Tricks Tutorials if there's only 3 moves? So I have to have 20 of them. All right, backflip, all right, 540, butterfly twist, double leg split, split double leg, crescent double leg, B twist, illusion twist, hyper twist, hyper swat. Okay, now, you know, there you go. You're motivated to get all these moves, which are variations of one another as well. But there you go, experiential learning, because no one had written how to do it. I wanted to be that guy. You know what I mean?
You know, for the coaches that are listening to this, is a coach working with people, right? We all have health histories that we run people through, and then we have not the health history, but basically an analysis.
Needs analysis.
A needs analysis.
Yeah.
So you got a needs analysis and a health history, right? That you run these athletes through, and all those things are showing you all the things that are potentially wrong, right? Potentially weaknesses. Where is the analysis of what they know and what they've learned on their own, right? Because if you have somebody that's been successful at doing something for 10 years, you think you know better than they do. You don't live in their brain. They live in their brain. You don't live in their body. They live in their body. You don't live in their joints. Where's that conversation to say, okay, from a training perspective, what's worked? What have you found that's worked for you? Those conversations rarely ever happen. So if I'm consulting with a coach, I spend most of my time on that. Because it's, okay, all this we know kind of already works with your athletes.
Yeah.
Now let's figure out this 20% you're not too sure of.
Okay.
Even if I can't give them the answer, I can show them what 20% they need to look for. Right? And that's just a matter of digging into what they know.
Yeah, and
right?
it's one of those things where it's like, okay, what did work for you in the past, what didn't work, why do you think it didn't work?
Yep.
Right? So it's even digging deeper and deeper into those experiences, and again, you'll get way more information out of that.
And I can say, even with the conversation with him earlier today about all this, there's never been that conversation that I've ever had with anybody that is excelled at what they do that I've not learned from.
Right.
So I'm doing myself a disservice for me personally with my own ego, my own education, by not having that conversation. Not to mention the disservice I'm giving to the person I'm trying to help. You see them. So it's both ends, because you walk away with, okay, now wait a minute, because I can use this if somebody else has this question. Here's what this is. Yeah. Not only that, but I can now file this that if I need to dig deeper, here's who I go to first. Like, remember when we talked about this? How can I learn a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
So it's expanding my network. And the thing, remember I just said, what are the things I don't know? There you go. And then that network expands, and that's just one text, one call, whatever, to be able to set it up.
So we had a challenge get thrown down in the messages for you.
Okay.
One Missy.
Yes.
Wants to...
Wait, what? Missy's in the chat?
Yes, she is.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She challenged you directly. I challenged Jujimufu to a backflip contest.
Okay, what is this, for time? Because I'm going to win.
Because I got to win.
We'll set up as long as you're up for the challenge,
is this
we'll
for
set up the
best
details.
looking backflip? Because I'm going to win.
Ooh.
My backflip is, I have a really good backflip. I can do a lot of them, I don't know.
I mean,
what's
time,
the challenge,
speed, height?
Missy?
I mean, what is it?
What is it, Missy? you got to define,
we'll
because
get
I've already
Missy back.
beat you on two fronts now. Heaviest backflip, I win. All right, there's 3. Wow. She's got.
Well, you're already declaring a winner without even doing it.
I
know. Wow. Throwing it down. Yeah, we'll get Missy on the horn again and see what she has to say about that. Couple more questions came in. Let's see a really good one here. Yeah, the Missy thing. We got everybody that's on board. They want to see a horse contest.
Horse contest.
What is that?
So, like, do a trick, and if you can't land the trick, you get an H. You spell it. It's like basketball horse.
Interesting.
Okay, that helps that a lot.
Yeah. Yep. She's gonna do a tumbling pass or something. I'd be like, Scott.
Ooh, 1 minute most backflips. That's what she just threw down for you. That sounds terrible. 1
minute most backflips. Okay. I don't know. We'll have to see. Are they sloppy backflips, or are they like good-looking backflips?
It's just most backflips.
Okay, we'll have to see.
We'll have to set that up.
That one would be closer.
We'll have to set that up.
Endurance.
Yeah.
So we're kind of running down on time here. I don't know if you want to plug anything to finish up, or what do you got going on? What can we look forward to in the world of Jujimufu?
Sure. So you can just check out my YouTube channel /Jujimufu, my Instagram /Jujimufu, and my website jujimufu.com. Probably should spell it out, Jujimufu, because the I was I should have just been Jujimufu.
Oh, the I's throwing them off.
The I throws everyone off. So if you spell it wrong, well, damn, it's my fault, I guess. But yeah, check out my website. I saw a lot of cool programs, very interesting ones that are, because I'm a hybrid athlete. I do a lot of different things. They can meet. Really, they're fun too. They're in spiral book and digital, so they're fun to have. Get your money's worth as well, because I've put a lot. The programs I write, actually, I write them for myself. It's stuff that I make for myself, and then I adapt it for other people. So that's kind of the way they work. So it's like, this isn't just something I wrote, like, oh, this is, you can take this. It's like, no, this is crap I use myself. You know what I mean? So I'm really passionate about, those things when I get around to writing them. But, like we talked about earlier, like life blocks.
Yes,
so unfortunately, I haven't been disciplined enough to write every single day, every day of the year, because I had a lot of changes this year. And we'll get back around to writing new material soon. But, man, I'm so happy I finally made the table talk. This is one of my favorite ones, man.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out.
All right, guys. If you like this, make sure to share it with your friends. Like, subscribe, even unlike it. That helps us too, right? Do whatever we need to do.
I don't know.
Sure does. Like I said, share it with everybody you know, and check out all of our content here on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere. Make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, and we will see you guys in the next episode.